Good evening and welcome. My name is Christopher Chappell. I'm the Doshi Professor of Indic and Comparative Theology at Loyola Marymount University. And I welcome you to this virtual space celebrating 100 years of Kaivalyadhama. I had studied Kaivalyadhama so many years ago as a scholar. And then finally, in 2013, I spent a few days at Kaivalyadhama and everything fell into place. Everything made sense. So much that you will learn about this historic location in India. And I want to, in particular, invite our clinical professor of yoga studies, Dr. Lori Fazio, to introduce, to be our MC, to share with you a little bit of her experiences in Kaivalyadhama. And what brings me great joy and really feeling quite honored to welcome you into this evening. I'm feeling great joy because through our collective good work, we have been able throughout the globe to make good on Swami Kaivalyananda's vision. And his vision is that yoga leads to the uplift, the Sarvodaya, the uplift of all. So I welcome Dr. Fazio. Please introduce us to the work of the evening ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Chappell, and namaste, everybody. Welcome to the centennial event for Kaivalyadhama. We're really excited to spend this time with you and to have the esteemed people that will be sharing with you later on in the evening or morning, depending on where you are. Kaivalyadhama is really near and dear to my heart. And so it's an honor to be able to host this celebration in recognition of their centennial year. I have been blessed to visit Kaivalyadhama 3 times through one of the Loyola Marymount University and Kaivalyadhama partner initiatives, where I take a group of yoga therapists, teachers, and practitioners to India for 2 weeks to study at Kaivalyadhama. And then we also spend a week in Pondicherry at the Institute of Salutogenesis and Complementary Medicine, where we study with Dr. Ananda Bhavanani, who you will hear from later on in the program. And by the way, our next trip departs next December 6, 2025, and you are all invited to join us. So keep an eye out for information after the new year. We have many joint ventures between Loyola and Kaivalyadhama, and another one is in partnership with Kaivalyadhama and the Institute of Salutogenesis and Complementary Medicine, and that is the Journal of Applied Yoga Studies. And this journal launched its first issue this month, and it's an open access peer-reviewed journal that you can read for free online at Digital Commons. Dr. Praseeda Menon, who you will hear from shortly, and Dr. Meena Ramanathan she works with Dr. Ananda in Pondicherry. The 3 of us are the co-editors, and this journal seeks to bridge the humanities philosophical yoga research with clinical applications, very much in alignment with Swami Kaivalyananda's mission. And as you probably know, Kaivalyadhama has its own journal. It was the first yoga research journal called Yoga Mimamsa, which has a clinical focus, and it's a brilliant journal. So you can access those through their website, and I highly recommend checking that out. We will share links to all of these things after the session and share with you some of the upcoming activities. Another partnership that we've had is we've hosted some of the faculty from Kaivalyadhama, including Dr. Kanesh Rao, and these are through continuing education programs. And it's all been truly inspirational and really rewarding to be able to partner with this amazing facility. So as the clinical professor of yoga and health at Loyola, my role involves building these bridges between the philosophy of yoga and its application for health and well-being. And this inspiration of building these bridges comes from the first center in the world that we're celebrating today to do this, to formally bridge this gap. It was Kaivalyadhama, which is in Lonavala, India. So if you're not familiar, it's about 2 hours east of Mumbai, up in the Western Ghats in the mountains. So back in 1924, about exactly 100 years ago, Swami Kaivalyananda sought to demonstrate through modern scientific research methods the yogic science of how yoga practices affect our health and well-being. So today, as we celebrate Kaivalyadhama's centennial year and honor the multitude of accomplishments they've achieved and continue to contribute to the world, we will do so through a short documentary that we'll share today. It covers a few of those accomplishments. We will also share a link to a longer documentary that goes into more specifics about their research. They have a massive Sanskrit library with many yogic texts that have yet to be translated. They also do clinical research. They have cancer and lifestyle disease programs, and they have a school where they bring yoga into education. There are so many facets of what Kaivalyadhama does, and we'll share a little bit with you today. Now, why are we linking this together? As you see, there's also a panel. So as I was organizing this event, I was observing that outside of India, there have been a lot of discussions about the future of yoga therapy. Questions such as, should yoga be a licensed healthcare profession? Does it even belong within the healthcare model, the pathologically based healthcare model? How do we keep the essence, the spirituality of yoga in yoga therapy? And how much yoga experience and education does a yoga therapist need to be qualified? And there's been a lot of these conversations lately, and sadly, quite a bit of contention. Now, in today's very, very polarized world, I'm an advocate for people coming together, for listening to one another and recognizing that each of us has a very limited perspective. So you may be familiar with the Jain concept of Anekantavada. It's one of my favorite concepts. There's a story, in case you're not familiar. There's 6 blind men, and they come upon an elephant in their village. Now, they've never seen an elephant before. And so they were feeling the elephant to try to get a sense of what it was. And the one that was feeling the tail of the elephant said, it's a rope. Another one was up by the ear. He felt it as a fan. He said, no, it's not a rope, it's a fan. And then the one who was standing by the leg said, it's a pillar, and so on. So they start to argue, each insisting he was right, his perspective's right, until a wise man came up and explained to them that each of them are only getting a small perspective of the greater, the whole, the elephant. And so in essence, each of them was right in their small perspective, but none of them had the whole picture. So in that theme of Anekantavada, I've invited pioneers in yoga therapy, each with their own unique perspective, to share their views on the future of yoga therapy, in hopes that together we can move forward in integrity and in unity. So this discussion today will be brief, and it's meant to plant seeds for future discussions, one of which in January, Veronica Zador will share that there's a conference where we will be taking this discussion further in a more formal way. Now, before we talk about that future, I was thinking about this. It's essential that we look back at the history and really look at why Swami Kaivalyananda decided to use modern scientific methods to study yoga, and why, when we look back, that can help us to guide our path forward. Personally, I look to Kaivalyadhama as like my yoga compass, guiding how yoga can be brought to the masses for improving health and well-being whilst maintaining the essence of yoga as a spiritual philosophy and practice. So now we're going to share what we'll do today is we're going to share the documentary on Kaivalyadhama. Then we're going to have the pleasure of a 45-minute chair yoga class taught by one of Kaivalyadhama's faculty, Ms. Mamta Bisht. Then we'll hear from Kaivalyadhama's senior research faculty, Dr. Praseeda Menon. Then we have a special guest who was the pioneer of yoga therapy outside of India, organizing it, which is Dr. Larry Payne, who's also my first yoga teacher. And he's the co-founder of the International Association of Yoga Therapists. And then we'll move on to our panel of these yoga pioneers. So you're invited to listen, particularly to perspectives you might not think you agree with. And then after the session, after this is all over, everyone in attendance is invited to join a Facebook group forum that we'll share with you, where we'd love to hear your perspectives, your feedback, and discussion in a community forum. So now we will go to the documentary. So I hope that you enjoyed that video. We'd love if you did learn something new about Kaivalyadhama, or perhaps if Kaivalyadhama is new to you, if you could just pop in the chat a thumbs up or a couple words, that we'd love to see and hear what you have to say. Before we go into the yoga class, I wanted to share something from our very first trip to Kaivalyadhama. The spiritual leader at the time, I just learned you don't have access to chat. So you can share that in the Facebook after. Thank you, Ayana. So on our first trip to Kaivalyadhama, the late spiritual leader of Kaivalyadhama, Swami Mahashananda, we had a private meeting with him, and I asked him, now that these yoga therapists are going back to the States, do you have a piece of guidance for them? And he answered with a question. And he said, what is more important, how something is given or how it's received? So the answer was obviously how it's received. And so he said, therefore, you must first master receiving. So in that theme, we're going to go receive and practice yoga with Ms. Mamta Bisht, who is a yoga teacher from Kaivalyadhama. Let me spotlight Mamta. Hello, namaste. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Mamta has received her postgraduate diploma in yoga education, as well as a master's in yoga. She's also a classical Indian dancer, Kartak dance, and is here today to lead us through a chair yoga class. So this will be about a 45-minute class. So enjoy, and thank you, Mamta.
Thank you, and namaste, everyone. I hope I'm audible to everybody and I'm visible to everyone. And thank you so much, Loyola Marymount University, for having us today with you. And a very special thank to Dr. Laurie Fazio for making all this arrangement possible and bringing us together for this session. And to begin with, like Swamiji said, that yoga has a message for the entire humanity, for the body, for the soul. And to receive that message, let's try. We are going to put in some effort today, which is going to be very effortless and in a very surrendered way. So to begin the session, let's start with the prayer. Before the prayer, let me make a quick note that I request you all to be sitting very comfortably in your chair. Please lock the back of your chair and also the height of your chair, just for the stability and safety. If it's okay with you, you may remove your shoes. And if possible, try to see that your feet are comfortably placed on the ground. So for that, if you need to come still forward on your chair, please come forward on your chair and try to place your feet on the ground. This is also going to bring stability and a straight posture for yourself for stability. Okay, with that note, now let's begin with the prayer. I request everyone to just very, very gently close their eyes. And as we close our eyes, let's focus on, especially on every exhalation that we make. Let's just become aware of the breath at the center of our chest. The sheer movement of the breath without any extra effort. And very gently, let's close our eyes and join our hands in Namaskar Mudra. Let's experience the warmth between our palms for a couple of seconds. And now with the next breath, we are going to chant prayer, the mantra Sehna Bhavatu. Those who are familiar with the mantra can recite along. The rest can simply observe the resonance of the sound and the calmness of the breath within. Let's take a breath in. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitumastu Ma Vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's stay there for a couple of more seconds. The prayer was about the collective practice, the collective aspiration for brilliance, for collective safety and blessings from the divinity, and also for the prayer and the wish that this process may not bring any animosity or competitiveness amongst us. Very gently, let's release our hands and we may open our eyes. Now for the further practice, I'm going to invite one of our volunteers, one of our students, Ms. Tushita Madan, to demonstrate the practices as I go behind the camera for the instructions and for the proximity of the mic. So Tushita, please join me here. Namaste everyone. Okay, let's settle down once again in a chair in a comfortable position. As a general rule, we would like to first demonstrate how we are going to relax and how we are going to be in the starting position for our practices. So to relax, we are going to keep our feet apart, our hands down, our palms facing the ceiling, and eyes closed. And whenever we are going to begin with any practice, we are going to be in starting position. For that, we can place the palms over our thighs again and have a nice contact of the floor with our feet. So to begin with, we are going to start with Kapalbhati. For that, we have to first sit in a very upright position with our back completely straight, our shoulder down, slightly out, having a relaxed abdominal region. It is a purposeful breathing with active and rhythmic exhalation after useful exhalations. We start with rapid and rhythmic contraction of lower abdomen muscles. Those who are suffering from hernia or acute asthma or pregnancy or are menstruating or have any abdominal discomfort, please avoid the practice. Rest can do that mindfully. So we are going to do 3 rounds of Kapalbhati. If you wish, you can keep one hand over your lower abdomen And bring your breathing awareness to your lower abdominal region. And with the next restful exhalation, let's start with the forceful, rapid, yet consistent strokes at your lower abdomen for the exhalation. We are going for 20 strokes. As the air rushes out of the lungs with every forceful exhalation, we hear a specific particular sound from the nose. After your 20 strokes, please rest. Focus on normal breathing. And after a couple of breaths, once again, let's begin with the next round. 20 strokes. Kapalbhati weakens passing across, crossing our mind. With sheer Kapalbhati practice, we can just break that circle, break that cycle, and we'll go for the third round of 20 strokes. A very good preparatory practice for all further breathing practices and asanas. It's a forceful active exhalation from the lower abdominal region and passive inhalation. After completing your third 20 strokes round, please relax and focus on the natural flow of the breath. And let's relax. All Indian practices begin with moving from gross to the subtle aspect of any experience. So to begin with now, we are going to start with some joint movements. For those who are having any issues with any of the following joints, may refrain from doing so. You may have, any certain medical condition or a history of injury or maybe acute stiffness. Please refrain from doing that or be very careful while you try that. So let's begin with a Brahma Mudra. That is a 4-directional neck movement, head movement, named after Lord Brahma, who's known as the creator. So for this, we will turn our head slowly to the right without moving our trunk. The chin is brought almost in line with the right shoulder. And then, after a couple of breaths, we come back to the center. Then comes a similar movement and pause on the left side. And then coming back to the center. And then taking our chin all the way upwards, keeping our jawline closed, eyes gently closed, experiencing a nice stretch in our throat region. Please notice that we don't drop our head backward. We are simply still having a gentle control. Keeping our shoulders relaxed. After a couple of breaths, we again come back to the center. And this is followed by bending the head forward, chin pressing at the base of the throat. And then after a couple of breaths, we come back to the center. Now let's repeat this practice once again on our own in 4 directions, starting from the right side. Try to be aware of the weight of your chin, the movement of your chin while keeping your trunk in front, shoulders down and out, keeping jawline relaxed. Brahma Mudra helps in releasing the accumulated tensions and strain, feeling heaviness and stiffness in the head, shoulder and neck region. Though it looks very simple, it is considered to be removing psychophysiological tensions, regulating blood pressure, and also curing functional disorders of the cervical spine, such as a stiff neck. Very mindfully, with the awareness of the breath, we are completing this Brahma Mudra practice, the head movement in 4 directions. Once we come back to the center, please relax for a couple of seconds. The next movement is for the shoulder. So we will request you to fix your hands on your knees or on your thighs till wherever you can keep your hand to relax, to stabilize your shoulders. And now we are going for the clockwise and anti-clockwise movements. We'll begin with the clockwise ones. Now think of the tip of your shoulder as the tip of the pencil through which you're drawing a nice big smooth circle. A very smooth circle touching all the corners of the periphery. With 5 to 6 circular motions, we will repeat the anti-clockwise movement. After 4 to 5 circles, we may release. And for the next movement, we have elbows movement. Let's extend our hands in front, our palms facing the ceiling. Let's place our fingers, the tip of the fingers on our shoulders. And then again, extending your hands out. Let's repeat this step 5 times. So with every inhalation, we are extending our hands out, and with every exhalation, we are taking our hands over our shoulders. These movements naturally increase not only the flexibility and strength, but also lubricate our joints and reduce swellings. And now we come to the wrist movement. Again, please extend your hands out in front. Make fists with both your hands. And again, we go for the clockwise movement. A very rhythmic, consistent, smooth movement, avoiding jerks, avoiding any sort of tension in our chest or throat. More than perfection, we will focus on the experience that we are having at the moment. After 5 to 6 clockwise movements, we will go for anti-clockwise movements. Complete awareness, complete coordination of the movement of the joint, the muscles associated, which all body regions are responding to this practice. We may pay attention to that also. And after that, let's stimulate our fingers also. Let's rejuvenate all the nerves that are ending in our palms, in our fingers. So just spreading our fingers out and squeezing them in, and then again all out and in, all out and in, and stretch out. And this time, let's stay there with the stretch for a couple of seconds. Maintain the stretch and bring your awareness even to the space in between your fingers, which are stretched all out. Keep your breath normal. Please do not hold your breath at any point. And release. And release. Relax your shoulders, elbows, wrists, fingers with the eyes closed. Let's observe the after effects of the practice. Maybe at the joint level, maybe at the muscular level, maybe at the circulatory level, maybe some sensation, tingling sensation. And then observe your breath. And now we move on to the next practice. We are going to do simple Parvatasana. Let's join our hands in Namaskar Mudra. Keep your shoulders down and out. Try to keep your elbows and the base of your palm in one line. Keep your back comfortably straight. And slowly we start raising your hands towards the ceiling with complete awareness of the movement, keeping the breath normal, consistent as it is. First, place the base of your palm at the center of your head. Let's just check our alignment a bit. Dissolve any sort of discomfort that you may have, and then let's proceed further, moving upwards. Keep your awareness on the warmth of your palms, the gentle pressure that we have created between our palms. Try to keep your elbows straight if possible. And let's breathe into this stretch, engaging even the upper region of our chest. In our usual day-to-day life, we hardly use the apex region of our lungs, the upper chest region. So here we are enhancing, we are expanding the breath. We are staying there with complete engagement of the back muscles, keeping the jawline relaxed. Let's start coming back gradually, systematically, in a very calm manner. Very rarely we practice such practices in our day-to-day life, especially not at that space. Here we are really in check of our mind, of our breath, and also being in touch within. Please relax your hands on your thighs. Let's do simple Vakrasana, that is the twisting pose. For that, we are going to use the back of the chair. With the next exhalation, let's twist to our left side while holding on to the back of the chair with both our hands, till wherever it is possible. Try to keep your knees, your legs in front, and we are twisting from our lower abdomen till the upper chest, pointing the chin backwards till wherever it is possible. Let's stay here for a couple of breaths. Let's breathe into this twist. Let's adapt to this practice. Let's breathe. Let's make ourselves comfortable. As we said before, more than perfection, more than giving all that we have in terms of effort, we are going to focus on the experience, on how we feel at the moment, how aware we are of every muscle. We don't even need to know the name, but which sort of part of my body, which region, which muscle, which joint is stimulated, is participating at the moment. Please relax and come back very slowly. Stay here for a couple of seconds at the center. And after some time, we repeat it on the other side. Please start on your own. Use the back of your chair for anchoring yourself for the stability and for the nice mindful twist. This practice helps in toning the nerves, helps in lower back pain, and even strengthening the lower back region. And very gently, please come back. Let's relax for some time, keeping some distance between our knees, feet, and keeping our palm facing the ceiling on our thighs. And just observe the simple breath in and out in our nasal passage. In the throat region, in the chest region, and please release. Now we are going to do a couple of standing practices. So we request our participants to please stand on both our feet with our weight equally distributed at the center of the feet. Keep your abdomen, your back, little check. Keep your shoulders down and out. Keep your neck relaxed in its neutral position. If you may want, you can keep some comfortable distance between your feet and your hands resting by the sides of your thighs. We are beginning with the Tadasana. We will start extending our hands in front, our palms facing each other. And then very slowly and gradually, remember, slowly and gradually, we want to raise our hands upward in a vertical position, stretching towards the ceiling. It takes a lot of awareness to resist the speed, to resist the force, to resist the swiftness. So the slower you are, rhythmic you are, more aware you are as a being of your practice at the moment. Keep your feet firmly into the ground. Press your heels, press your toes, and gently pull your hands upwards, engaging all the muscles in your back, lower abdomen. And let's breathe here for a couple of more seconds. Prolonged sitting positions lead to weakening and tightening, or maybe shortening of the muscles, and practices like Tadasana can help us release those constraints and also tone our nervous system. We are stimulating, we are toning our nerves. Observe your breath. Complete mindfulness. Be aware of the tip of your fingers, how stretched they are in a gentle way, how your wrists, elbows, shoulders are aligned. What about the back muscles? What about the muscles in my chest region, abdominal region? Are my hip muscles also engaged? Being complete aware of the muscles in the lower limbs. And to practice further, bring more mindfulness and awareness. We may make it a balancing position. We may gently open our eyes if our eyes are closed and fix your gaze at a point in front of you. In some time, you're going to raise our heels, so be very careful. More than height, we want the stability. So with the next breath in, start raising your heels at a comfortable height. Keep observing the point that you have chosen in front. Try to balance yourself. And gently bring your heels down. And once again, we are going to repeat this practice. Inhale and raise your heels off the floor. Remember, as we said, more than gaining the height, we are focused on the stability of the self, of the mind. Now observe your breath. Whether it is slow, whether it is fast. Gently bring your heels down. And now for the better and enhanced awareness, let's close our eyes and let our hands slowly start coming down on their own. Please take your time, no hurry. Just let your hands start coming down on their own as if they're gliding in the space and they're coming back to their original position. Be completely aware of the gush of the blood, maybe from the tip of your fingers to your shoulders. What are the sensations that we experience? Maybe some sort of tension in the hands or in the back muscles. Improving our balance and stability. You may relax for some time by keeping some distance between your feet, relaxing your hands and your palms facing front. Again, observe your weight in your feet. Equally distribute your weight. Keep your abdomen and your pelvis checked. Observe the back muscles, the muscles of the abdomen and thoracic region, that is your chest. And eyes gently closed. Please open your eyes and let's take the starting position. Keeping comfortable distance between your feet. Please see that the distance is parallel, or if you're really comfortable and you have practiced before, you can even join your feet however you feel comfortable. Let's start again extending our hands in front and start taking them over our head towards the ceiling. Hastottanasana. Once we have reached our comfortable range of complete stretch, let's have a slight backward bend. Try to keep your head and hands in one line. Keep your jawline closed. Keep your eyes open for the balance and focus on your breathing. And with the next exhalation, we start bending forward from our hip joint region, trying to keep our back extended forward. Gently, slowly, we move forward. People who are suffering from high blood pressure or heart disease or maybe acidity may avoid this practice. Going all the way down, they can avoid going all the way down. Once we have reached our final position, that is still wherever you can reach without bending your knees, just stay there for a couple of seconds. Let's observe especially the exhalation. Be aware of the pressure in your toes as well. Resting your shoulders, elbows, hands down. And after a couple of breaths, again, let's align our hands by the side of the head and start coming up. We may press our feet, especially the toes, down nicely, fixing our pelvis, knees straight, and we come all the way up. And then relaxing the hands, bringing them down. And we may sit back and relax for some time. To induce further relaxation, we can chant Om 3 times. Those who may want to avoid the Om chant, they can just simply do the humming sound or the oo sound or the sound. Let's take a breath in while closing our eyes. Om. Try to keep the O smaller and the M longer, a tapering sound. With the next breath in. And let's observe the silence for some time. Now we are going to begin with Brahmari Pranayam, in which we produce the humming sound like a bee. We are going to create the sound, sort of ing sound, that is when we press, when we have a gentle constriction at the back of your throat, and you produce that sound, focusing on the exhalation and the consistency of the sound, creating the resonance, the vibration within. It's a simple humming sound. Please sit comfortably straight, keeping your shoulders down, with no particular stiffness or restriction of your muscles, tensions in your joints. Complete awareness in your chest region, in your throat region, in your head region, the entire face. We are gonna chant, or we are gonna practice Brahmari 5 times. Let's take a breath in. Please try to keep the sound consistent. This time in Brahmari, it's not a tapering sound. It is a consistent sound till the end. A very good practice for improving our exhalation, for our further breathing practices, especially pranayam, controlling our breath, movement, and creating tranquility and equanimity of mind. With the next breath in, two more times. Breathe in. Last time. Observing the silence and observing the resonance within that we have just caused by creating the humming sound, the in sound. Identifying with that resonance vibration within. The more we keep ourselves relaxed, the more experiential this practice becomes. Observing the natural pattern of breath at the moment is natural inflow and outflow. Relaxing our ankles, knees, hip joint, entire back, head, shoulders, elbows, wrist. The more we let go, the more we receive. And as Dr. Laurie said in the beginning, we want to receive maybe with this practice the awareness, the sense of unity with that infinite entity, being, thing, however we perceive the reality of ourselves and the things around. Connecting within so that we can unite with the surrounding as well. Complete awareness of your breath, the subtle movements that it may have been causing, experiencing that rhythm, breathing into that rhythm for some more time. maybe a couple of seconds. We are going to complete this practice in another couple of seconds. So bringing our awareness gently back to our sitting position, to the very chair that we are on, to the very room, the space that we are in. And we are going to proceed towards the prayer to complete this session with a great sense of relaxation, calmness, and a sense of gratitude for this opportunity that we had to practice, no matter how it came, how much rush we were in before the session, what we have to do after this session, but just trying to be in this very moment with that sense of gratitude that we had this moment for ourselves. Let's join our hands in Namaskar Mudra. We are going to chant the Purnamada mantra, which brings the essence of being complete, being infinite, being complete within and around. Let's take a breath in. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's stay there for a couple of more seconds. Let's absorb, let's assimilate the after experience of all the practices that we did so far. Maybe the words that we heard, the sense of space, the sense of movement. Be in the present moment. We may gently release our hands and we may open our eyes. Please take your time. Thank you, Tushita. I request you to please join me at the back. So thank you for this practice and thank you for being with us. Now over to you, Dr. Laurie.
Thank you both. Mamta, that was such a beautiful practice, and I hope that everybody enjoyed it. I think that the message that comes so strongly from the practices and from being at Kaivalyadhama is the present moment mindful awareness, and you conveyed that so beautifully in the beautiful practice. So thank you very much. Even just as a side note, even when we're at Kaivalyadhama, the beautiful sattvic food that we eat, much of it grown there in the organic garden, we're invited to eat with mindful awareness. It's the yoga way of life.
Yes. So yeah, the message is that, pranayam, asana, they're all the practices, but they have to come along with a certain lifestyle that we have to follow, especially the yamas and niyamas given in our Ashtanga Yoga by Maharishi Patanjali ji. They are basically the attitude, the mental state of how we want to perceive ourselves and the reality and how we want to move around in our day-to-day life. So complete with yamas and niyamas, we have to get into the practice of very basic practices to be in touch with it, to get the more essence of the presence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mamta. Thank you. So I hope everybody receives that as Swami Mahashananda said. Now I have such a great pleasure. Let me bring Praseeda here. Now it is with such a great pleasure to announce and introduce Dr. Praseeda Menon, who is a dear friend and colleague and co-editor of Jay's. Namaste, Dr. Praseeda. A little bit about Dr. Praseeda. She brings over a decade of experience in studying yoga's psychological aspects. She has a PhD in psychology, a diploma in yoga and Ayurveda. She's also studied applied Buddhist psychology and ethics. She's a research officer of the Scientific Research Department of Kaivalyadhama, and she conducts scientific research on the efficacy of yoga in holistic health, healing, and well-being. Her research to date has focused on the psychological impact of yoga on non-communicable diseases, mindfulness in relation to personality factors, the self-regulatory role of yoga in different cultures, and the efficacy of yoga practices in children with intellectual disabilities. She played a key role in transitioning the world's first and oldest yoga research journal, Yoga Mimamsa, started in 1924 at Kaivalyadhama, from print to online mode. And as an assistant professor at the GS College of Yoga and Cultural Synthesis at Kaivalyadhama, she supervises PhD students at the college's research center. She's very passionate about unearthing the scientific treasure in Indian traditional knowledge systems through collaborative research and education, and unraveling this timeless knowledge to the world. It is truly an honor to have you here, Praseeda. Today, Praseeda is going to share what's currently happening at Kaivalyadhama and then lead into what things are coming up in the future vision from Kaivalyadhama. So I'll hand it over to you, Praseeda.
Thank you so much, Laurie. Thanks for that introduction. And thanks for inviting me to this event. It's a great opportunity to share the work of Kaivalyadhama, the vision of Kaivalyadhama, the vision of Swami Kaivalyadhama with the world, with your audience who has joined us. So since we are hard pressed for time, let me just quickly share my screen. Okay, so could you give me a heads up there, Laurie? Okay, thank you so
Yes,
much.
looks great.
So namaste to all of you once again. And it's a pleasure to present the yoga therapy at Kaivalyadhama currently. And I would like to start with paying tributes to the one who started it all here at Kaivalyadhama, the yogi scientist, Swami Kaivalyadhama. And he established Kaivalyadhama in 1924 in this place where I am now at in Lonavala, which is the headquarters of Kaivalyadhama. I want to, before I start, I want to give this message that he gave to all of you. The comprehensiveness of yoga that he talked about. Yoga has a complete message for humanity. It has a message for the human body. It has a message for the human mind. And it has a message for the human soul. Many of you in the audience may not know so much about Kaivalyadhama, so let me just take a quick moment to introduce Kaivalyadhama to you. It's where yoga tradition and science meet. It's the first department for scientific yoga research in the world, first yoga research journal, first college of yoga, first yogic hospital, first yoga institute in India to be recognized as an All India Institute of Higher Education. We are also a scientific and industrial research organization, leading a yoga institute under the Yoga Certification Board of the Government of India, a collaborative research center under the Government of India. We have 5 branches in India and 3 international. This is what Kaivalyadhama looks for you, just to invite you. That road invites you, for those who have already not been here. This is our healthcare center. This is the front face of the healthcare center. And we offer bespoke residential programs here. Our standard programs are the first three in the row: yoga plus Ayurveda, yoga and naturopathy, yoga and relaxation. These are always available as weekly programs. Depending on the need of the times, we have also introduced a few more very specialized programs on yoga and weight management, yoga and pain management, and yoga and hormone revival, which we call the Santulan program. And these are all weekly programs. We also offer something called Odyssey, which is the yoga and anti-aging program, again, a weekly program, and also yoga for autoimmune disorders, which runs in workshop mode. It's not available always. It is announced certain times in the year. These are our panel of doctors. Vaidya Jagdish Bhuttaraji is our Chief Medical Officer. And we have Dr. Gururaj and Dr. Ritu helping him. Dr. Gururaj looks more into the Ayurveda and Dr. Ritu looks more into the naturopathy consultations. We also offer personal online yoga therapy sessions for chronic and lifestyle-based diseases. Here, the focus is on chronic disease management, personalized approach, mind-body connection, and we offer progress tracking, and we offer an initial assessment, and we try to empower people so that they can take yoga in their life and continue it. This is our Soham program. We call it the Immersive Healing Program. It's a 2 weeks program which runs in workshop mode. Soham is self-observation, healing, and awareness mantra. So it focuses on cultivation of correct psychological attitude, reconditioning of the psychophysiological mechanism, which was the phrase that Swami Kaivalyadhama actually advocated. Other therapeutical procedures, diet, naturopathy, and yoga practices based on individual needs as well. And this is mainly for people who are suffering chronic diseases like diabetes, cancer, who are cancer survivors, blood pressure, heart problems, all of that. We recently, in this centenary year, we inaugurated the Justice M.L. Paintsay Center for Cancer Survivors and Lifestyle Conditions. We call it the Project Anand. So here we want to support all those people with lifestyle conditions in a very personalized way. These are some of the pictures of the outreach programs that we have run at a cancer hospital, at a very renowned government cancer hospital at Mumbai. These are some of the pictures of the classes that we ran there. This was free of cost. This is again on International Yoga Day at the same facility. This is our online program, which our branch in Pune runs. They run 3 classes, which are free of cost for cancer survivors, some regular classes also, and also 1 batch for the senior citizens. This is run in the morning and evening, and it is completely free of cost. And of course, medical consultations are also offered after initial assessment. Now, let me come to our college, which is the Gordanda Sexaria College of Yoga and Cultural Synthesis. I will focus only on the course, which is the therapy course. We do offer so many other courses up to the PhD program. But since we are talking about yoga therapy, I will focus on the diploma in yoga therapy, which is an 18-month course, more than 2,000 hours, 1 year of coursework, and 6 months of internship in a hospital. And yes, Mamta, who took the session on the chair for you, she is the teacher for the yoga therapy course, and the demonstrator, one of our students, she's also from this TYT course. And here I would like you to focus on the 50,000 plus thing, where we have trained medical and other professionals meaning those professionals who are in Ayurveda, naturopathy, Unani, Siddha. These are all complementary methods of medicine. And of course, we have trained other people as well through our college. We recently concluded our conference on yoga in cancer care, international conference, in the previous week from 4th to 7th. And this conference had 20 experiential workshops. We had partnered with the government, as well as the Indian Yoga Association, as well as the Tata Memorial Hospital, which is an ACE hospital for cancer survivors and patients, and the treatments in India. 1 keynote, 3 plenary, 3 panel, 1 case-based discussion, which was very unique, wherein we had a panel of 7 people from different fields of yoga, Ayurveda, naturopathy, social work, psychology, etc. come and discuss 1 case on breast cancer, 1 pre-conference workshop on research methods, short film contest for cancer survivors to put up their stories, cultural programs, paper poster presentations. We had 30 speakers from India and abroad. We had oncologists, medical doctors, Ayurveda and yoga naturopathy doctors, researchers, yoga teachers, therapists, and so many more. We had 500 plus participants from different parts of the world and fields on site and online. And just to give you that we have been working in the field of yoga as therapy consistently. During COVID, we offered an online symposium on yogic therapy, traditional and contemporary approaches. And 2018, we also had this international conference again on yoga as therapy, which was attended by some of the panelists we have in the panel discussion here. We also are working in the area of special needs. This year being a centenary year, we offered 5 workshops, residential workshops for special educators. We had 4 in Lonavala and 1 in Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth, who was a collaborator. We educated more than 250 special educators and more than 90 of our own students. And this was focused on autism and intellectual disabilities. Very quickly, this is the scientific research department where I am right now talking to you. This is the first yoga experiment in the world, which was also focused on a therapeutic practice called Noli. I do not have time to explain this to you. Maybe I'll come back to it some other time. These are some of our therapy-focused projects on diabetes, migraine, polycystic ovarian syndrome, overweight, obesity, chronic and non-communicable diseases, elderly people, etc. These are some of our recently published articles. And with that, I will end my presentation here. And this is some of the current work that we have been doing over the past few years. And now I will, Laurie, can I go on and talk about?
Yes, please, please.
So much. So I would like to now talk to you a little bit about the future of yoga therapy. There are some questions which Laurie has been very kind to send it over to me. And I think answering those questions will clarify the vision of Kaivalyadhama, of Swamiji, and what I personally also think. So let's go back to the root of this word, yoga therapy. So this word, actually, we would assume that it came from the term that Swami Kaivalyadhama coined, yogic therapy, when he wrote the book Yogic Therapy, Its Basic Principles and Methods, which was co-authored by his physician student, Dr. Vinekar. And this book was commissioned by the government of India because there was a lot of demand for such a book. And in this book, you will find this word reconditioning of the psychophysiological mechanism. And that is what he thought was the mechanism by which yoga acts on the mind, body, and the entire being of the person and creates those changes. I just want to read out a quote for you from this book. and what he talked about, the objective approach towards yoga as a science, as well as its application in therapy. So this is quote Swami Kaivalyadhama. Neither is it enough for us to dote upon the methods of yoga just because they were handed down to us by our forefathers, nor because that they belong to a class of holy men who must have only the goal of the people at heart. Mere good wishes on the part of its protagonists or our national and racial sentiments for the therapy should not lead us to have blind faith in it. It should be our duty to verify its results and explore the exact psychophysiological mechanism of the channels through which these results are obtained. So basically, we can say that Swami Kaivalyadhama wanted to present a comprehensive picture of the scientific aspect and rationale of yogic therapy in the layman's language to the whole world. From there, so does yoga therapy belong in healthcare? If you ask me, definitely yes. If you ask Kaivalyadhama, definitely yes. Definitely in mainstream healthcare, as well as preventive and promotive public health strategy. And very quickly, I want to highlight the Indian insurance model. It's very encouraging that all our insurance companies, which are regulated by a governmental authority, are now allowing us to take the benefit of all these complementary methods of medicine of yoga, Ayurveda, naturopathy, Unani, Siddha, homeopathy, what we call Ayush, because this year the governmental agency has issued a directive that all the insurance companies should start implementing this in a full-fledged manner from April onwards. And this is what they say. In recent times, Ayush treatments, that is all the complementary medicine treatments, have generated increased popularity and have become an established branch of medicine. Considering the growing demand for Ayush treatments, there is a need to consider these treatments at par with other medical treatments. And earlier also, since 2019, this was going on, but not all insurance agencies actually gave this benefit. But now it is all the insurance agencies on the directive of the governmental agency, which is offering us this benefit. And I think that model, if possible, could be replicated everywhere in the world. And they do say that this is because people should be given a choice to take the treatment that they want. And this is there in their letter. That said, how does yoga therapy stay true to the tradition of yoga? I would say at Kaivalyadhama, what you already saw in the yoga class today is the awareness-based yoga that we follow. And it emphasizes the inner connection, the self-awareness part, because only when you are self-aware will the self-regulation come in the long term. So this is based on the principles of the Yoga Sutra by Patanjali. That is our overall tradition. And specific to Kaivalyadhama and Swami Kaivalyadhama is our tradition of evidence-based practices and the scientific and philosophical-literary research which we try to combine. So at Kaivalyadhama, we follow both the traditions of Patanjali and our founder. There is a question of what are the challenges that the field of yoga therapy is facing today. I think it is about qualified and sincere, dedicated yoga therapy professionals, evidence generation, we need more research, and also we need acceptance by the medical community so that they can implement this yoga therapy as a integrative medicine in their facilities. And what standards would we try to talk about? One thing I would definitely like to say, and this was a part of the closed door discussion that we had in our Yoga as Therapy conference in 2018. We all discussed, it was an international, multinational panel which discussed that standards are important and not standardization. When we talk about standards, they are a level of quality. And when we talk about standardization, we are talking about one size fits all. And we want yoga therapy to be personalized. Research is very important because that is what will get yoga and yoga therapy into mainstream. In our yoga therapy course, we offer students the traditional aspects of yoga, the research part, the practice part, the assessment. We also give them knowledge about Ayurveda, naturopathy, and other complementary systems. Also, we offer them a clinical internship. They know to read the medical reports. And we also tell them about the boundaries and ethics. We also offer some sessions related to counseling and how do they do the documentation during the internship. And probably the last question that people would like to know is, how do we envision the future of yoga therapy? From the perspective of Kaivalyadhama, we envision yoga therapy as integrative medicine. We look forward to a setup wherein every hospital has a yoga therapy unit, where yoga therapy is part of the team of all the medical doctors who meets the patient, and the yoga therapist is working in collaboration with all the medical professionals right from the beginning for the treatment plan. And whatever the yoga therapist is offering is based on scientifically rigorous research and the long-term evidence that was generated. And of course, there is a lot of scope for prevention prevention practices also in yoga. So in schools, higher learning places, workplaces, healthcare professionals, because they are really bearing the brunt, community centers, if yoga could be offered as a free or at a reasonable cost as a public health strategy, we look forward for that, and India is taking great strides in that. And just to add to Swami Kaivalyananda's vision, he also envisioned spirituality. And in the recent conference, there were many people who talked about meaning and purpose in life, and this was the benefit finding that we would have even for patients who would do yoga. And I think many people come to yoga because they have some or other health problem. And I think yoga therapy will really do them good. And we need qualified professionals to integrate yoga into health and healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Praseeda, for all of that. I hope that everybody gains a greater understanding of all the work and why I say that Kaivalyadhama is a yoga compass guiding the way for the rest of us. So thank you very much, Praseeda. And we will move here onward. Let me switch here and invite Larry Payne. Let's see. As Larry's coming on board, I will go ahead and introduce Larry. After practicing yoga for about 15 years and as a physical therapist and Larry was a yoga therapist referring to each other, he reached out to me and said, you need to come train as a yoga teacher. And we have been dear friends ever since. He is an internationally respected yoga teacher, author, and known as the founding father of yoga therapy in the United States and in the West outside of India. Over a career of 40 plus years, he's accomplished many firsts, including serving as founding president of the International Association of Yoga Therapists, co-founding the yoga program at the UCLA School of Medicine, teaching yoga at the World Economic Forum, and founding the International Yoga Center's Samatha Yoga in 1980, as well as the Prime of Life Yoga and Yoga Therapy RX programs at Loyola Marymount University. He's co-author of Yoga RX, Yoga Therapy and Integrative Medicine, and the international bestseller, Yoga for Dummies. Larry, are you there?
I'm there.
You can turn your video on.
There's a line through the video with a red line.
Yeah, just go ahead and click that video and that should open it up. There we go. So, Larry,
Great pleasure to meet you, Praseeda Menon. Great speech. Thank you. Oh,
Larry's
Nanda
going to share.
Balaji.
I invited Larry because because so many of us are outside of India, and Larry was the one who pioneered yoga therapy, organized it as a kind of moving field outside of India. So Larry, over to you, because I know we're tight on time, to share what led you, Larry, to really pioneer yoga therapy outside of India. Over to you.
Well, what happened is I was once an advertising sales executive for McCall's magazine. And I went away to a retreat to have a juice fast. And while I was there, I found, I was with the father of holistic medicine in America, Dr. Everett Loomis, and I wanted to change my life. So I took a trip around the world, just visiting yoga teachers. So while I was there, I had my press pass from McCall's magazine and my camera, and I was from California, and nobody really turned me down. So one of my greatest honors was when I went to Kaivalyadhama in I think it was in January of 2000. And if you could pull up the two slides I have, the first slide anyway. The man who was there at that time was Dr. Biole, I pronounce it right, Biole. He was the director. And what really moved me is that he invited me to his home, and he took me into his living room, and he had a swing in his living room. So we sat in his swing and rocked back and forth and talked. And I had never seen that before. And I know that's very prevalent in Indian homes now, or was. And I was very moved by that. And he said to me that I shouldn't have any problems visiting anybody because I was a reporter from California writing a book, and he gave me some names of places to go and so forth and so on. But I spent some time there and took some classes there. And so it's really great that on the 100th birthday that I can remember this beautiful man. So the other adventures, as some of you know, that I spent some time with late Krishnamacharya and his late son Desikachar. And they took me under their wing, and they also asked me to do a tribute to Krishnamacharya in America. So I did that, and we had people coming from all over the world for this event. And that, all these things, led to me getting this title of the founder of yoga therapy in America, because Richard Miller and I were studying there with Desikachar. And I came to Richard and I said, I think we need a yoga therapy organization in America. He says, well, if we do, we're going to need a journal. And he says, I'll write the journal. I said, okay, well, I'll be the marketing guy, and I'll set up the administration and that type. So I'll be the president. So we did that. And all of a sudden I started asking these different people to be on the board for all different places. And one of the gentlemen that stepped up for us that made us famous in America was a man named Dr. Dean Ornish. And he, is a doctor for 3 presidents. He and his wife go to visit, places in India to cleanse and so forth. But that part of starting the International Association of Yoga Therapists with Richard Miller really gave me my big credentials, because all the people on our board were fabulous people, and they were from all different countries. And now they're the International Association of Yoga Therapists in 50 countries with 5,000 members, approximately. And but it's a small pebble compared to Kaivalyadhama and all the things that you've done over 100 years. But the final thing I'd like to say is that, my teacher, Desikachar, passed away, and I met somebody else that really inspired me. And he was such a beautiful man that he was a family man. And when I first met him, it was in San Francisco area, and he came to America and he was wearing Levi's. So he adjusted to the culture. And I was having some problems with a certain thing, and with an atrial fib in my heart. And I started talking to him, and then we talked more. And then we talked more, and he asked me about it, and I told him about it. And then after we walked away, I went back to my room, and my atrial fib had stopped. And I'll never forget that. It really, really happened. And he came out with a yoga therapy book, and he put me in his book. And so, Laura G, would you put up his picture? Because I had his picture too. This is a great picture of him. But what I love about him the most is that he is a true yogi and a family man. And he's not swayed by all these titles and things where people get in trouble with, this and that with their power. He's a beautiful family man. He's my new teacher. So I went from people I met initially and now to him. And I think that he will be my inspiration until I pass. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over back to you and just be able to share that with everybody here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Larry G, for being here, for being a guide for me and so many of us, and for sharing your wisdom with all of us. I know we are tight. I'm going to go right on to our next speaker. So Larry brought the yoga therapy, kind of organized it outside of India. And our next speaker, Lee Majewski, Lee, if you are there, Lee straddles both worlds. So Lee actually lived at Kaivalyadhama for 6 years, and altogether 10 years in different ashrams. Yogacharini Lee Majewski is an author, researcher, educator, and yoga therapist, is a founding director of the nonprofit Yoga for Health Institute in Toronto, Canada. And after spending 10 years studying and teaching in ashrams in Caribbean and India, she led transformative yoga therapy, post-cancer yoga therapy retreats at Kaivalyadhama and remains a visiting senior yoga therapist. Most recently, she co-authored Yoga Therapy as a Whole Person Approach to Health with Dr. Ananda Bhavanani, who we just saw. By the way, that book I use it in my course, and it's fabulous. You'll hear from Dr. Ananda shortly. Lee has been a leader in advocating for spirituality and sadhana as foundational elements in modern therapy. And that is one of the reasons why I was really grateful to have Lee here to share her perspectives on where yoga therapy is today and the vision for the future. So Lee, we're going to bring you up to the stage, and welcome.
Well, thank you so very much for inviting me and for letting me speak here. I don't have much to say, so I'll be very short. My 6 years in India were tremendous school of what yoga is. And I was really very lucky to not only learn, but also breathe the spirituality of India. And when I came back to Canada, it became apparent to me that somehow North America and part of Europe as well have lost the essence of yoga. The yoga as expression is understood as predominantly asanas and pranayama. Even our environment, even yoga therapists are saying yoga and meditation. And I'm thinking, how's that? Right, so even in yoga professionals' consciousness, we don't recognize the essence, the true essence and deep layer of yoga. And so when we are talking about doing yoga for us, it is in a way of self-maintenance, right? Whereas truly it is a spiritual development tool. And yoga is about experiential learning, not intellectual learning. And this is something that we have a problem in the West, because we are used to remembering information, getting the knowledge through reading or through studying, whereas yoga is getting the wisdom through experience. And that is the biggest challenge of current state of yoga in the West. We somehow, most of the people that are coming through the yoga training do not understand truly what yoga is, and do not appreciate that this is experiential learning that needs to be practiced every day with awareness, just like yoga teacher from Kaivalyadhama was talking about, be aware, be aware, be aware of what is happening within. And so to me, the current state of yoga in the West requires a lot of work, requires a lot of education, and requires a lot of mentorship, which really is not yet accepted as a part of training for yoga therapists. We also have to understand that sadhana is not a self-maintenance. It's a core competency. It is what makes us good yoga teachers or good yoga therapists. And so for me, this is basic. If this is not going to be understood and imbued in the students and practitioners, then how can we talk about future of yoga? To me, the basic is, first, we need to have the basics well entrenched, and then we can look at the future. That's and for that reason, as you know, I'm right now finishing the book on spirituality in yoga therapy, and that should be published sometime mid next year. That's it. Thank you. Thank you for letting me vent my frustration.
Let's see. Oh, I was going to add and I want to keep Lee here for just a moment. Thank you, Lee. I also want to acknowledge that it's because of you, Lee, that we even brought this yoga therapy partnership with Kaivalyadhama. It was Lee that invited and said, and Lee who set up all the most amazing program for us. So we really owe that to you, Lee, as that liaison. So thank you so much for that. We're looking
Thank you for acknowledging.
We're looking forward to your book, and I'm over here echoing these things that you're saying. I do have one question I want to ask, which is, do you see the yoga therapy as how you're describing it has the possibility for being within mainstream medicine in that way? Do you think it's possible? Not that we know how to do it yet, but do you think that's possible?
Absolutely. And not only possible, but it's desired. But first we have to get the basics. And then when we get the basics, when we really understand and practice, and each yoga therapist or yoga teacher is actually practitioner first and then professional, then we can talk about going anywhere in the world. And I believe that this is the answer, not only in hospitals and healthcare, but this is the answer to all the problems within society, within population of the world. Because that is not only the goal, but that is a tool. Yoga is a tool to expanded consciousness, which is the goal, right? And once you expand you're more aware, you expand your consciousness, you're a better human being.
We certainly need that in the world today, some better humans.
We need this, the basics. First, we have to get the basics, and then we can dream about the Mars and the moon.
Thank you. Thank you, Lee, for sharing your perspectives and for all the work that you're doing and advocating for the foundation, the core, the essence of yoga to be the foundation of yoga therapy. So thank you. Okay, now let's see, I'm going to invite Amy Wheeler. So I will add Amy here. Welcome, Amy. Welcome to be with us here. Amy is another person who has spent quite a bit of time in India. Amy Wheeler has a PhD and was a professor of kinesiology at California State University for 25 years. Amy's degrees include a BA and MA in health promotion and a PhD in educational psychology. She was trained in yoga therapy by Desikachar at the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram in Chennai, India. And she has been educating yoga therapists for decades. When I think yoga therapy in the West, I think Amy Wheeler as one of these key people. She served as president of the board for the International Association of Yoga Therapists from 2018 to 2020, and has been a leader in the field speaking at yoga therapy conferences across the globe in multiple countries. So Amy, welcome. It's really a joy to have you here, and I'm going to turn the floor right over to you.
Well, first of all, I just want to say, after hearing Larry and Dr. Praseeda and Lee Majewski, I'm glad I'm going early because everything that's been said so far is so true, so simple, so profound. And I'm not sure there's much more to say, but I'll give it a shot. So, one of the things I care deeply about is how can we keep yoga therapy and the roots of yoga therapy true to the traditions and still bring this beautiful practice into healthcare. And I think of it literally like a tree. Like if we cut off the tree from the roots, what do we have left? And the tree will die. So I love what Praseeda said about being kind of grounded in Patanjali Yoga Sutra and the other ancient texts and figuring out how do we adapt them to contemporary needs. So that doesn't mean that we just teach people, 4 pranayamas and 16 asana. Like literally we need to learn the Yoga Sutra. And when we learn that, we will be able to adapt it and modify it to anyone who's in front of us. But we can't just skip over that. Another thing I think, the Panchamaya Kosha model from yoga goes so beautifully with the biopsychosocial spiritual model, which I know Larry and Lori and so many people were practicing at the Venice Family Clinic. And that was one of the things that you always said. The integrative medicine team just was in awe over the Panchamaya Kosha model. So that's just proof that we can take the ancient texts and really weave them into modern language and that it will be accepted. I think sometimes we as yoga therapists have this complex that we're not good enough. We shouldn't be there with the rest of the integrative medicine team. They're not going to like what we have. And I think we need to have a lot of confidence that we actually have the goods. We have some really, really amazing things that make a big difference for people, especially in cases that the others haven't been able to solve. I find a lot of times people end up coming to yoga therapy almost as a last resort, like, okay, I'll try this. I've tried everything else. And then we end up being the ones who finally help them become self-empowered, become in touch with that deep place within, which then allows, as Praseeda said, to have that reorganization of everything, really, of body, mind, spirit, values, psychophysiological, everything gets transformed once we get in touch with something very deep inside of ourselves. I also love what Lee was saying, that when we as yoga therapists go into modern healthcare, we have to do it from a place of daily personal sadhana or practice, where we have hopefully tried to get ourselves a little bit more into balance each and every day, and that we have touched that deep place within our own self on a very regular basis, because I think it's only from there that we can actually share that with others. It's not something intellectual. It's not words. It's a feeling, it's connection, it's prana flowing between us. So if we haven't been in touch with our own deeper heart for a really long time, it's going to be almost impossible, I think, to be able to share that experience, as Lee said, with anyone else. I also love what was said about, yoga therapy as a practice of self-awareness, of I wouldn't say, well, it could be self-realization, but in the therapeutic context, kind of like about self-regulation and physical well-being. I think most of our disease pathology in Western healthcare comes back to high stress levels, high allostatic load, being dysregulated, especially in our nervous system. And those are the things that we are experts at teaching. So I think when they discover what we can do, they're going to be really excited. The problem so far has been, I don't think we've had enough education about what we do, how we do it, how safe it is. And I just think that is where we need to start, is educating the Western healthcare system about who we are, what we do, that type of thing. And I love, Lee's idea about her book. I'm doing something similar with my podcast, the Yoga Therapy Hour, in 2025. The entire year is going to be, come tell me your story of health, healing, and beyond that happened to you because you practiced yoga, yoga therapy, and or Ayurveda. Like just 50 stories, 50 hours of stories of how these practices changed your life. So I invite all of you, if anyone wants to be on the podcast and talk about your story of healing, I would love to have you all. And, in my fantasy mind, that might eventually turn into a book like Lee is doing too, just with stories of people's healing. Lori, do I have any more time, or shall I pass it on?
Well, do you have something else that you would like to add?
One tiny little thing.
Sure.
A lot of time when we think of yoga therapy coming into healthcare, we think of it on the medical side, which I'm all for. But because my health promotion background, as you mentioned, I actually think we could enter in through the behavioral health education door. I think we actually match up better with that. As Dr. Ananda says, salutogenesis, prevention. I think most of what we do actually fits into health education and behavioral health as a preventative lifestyle medicine model. So I would like to see if we could educate health education teams all across the nation and all across the world on how we can become part of that team also, not just on the medical side. And I think we can still do coding and billing and insurance through behavioral health too. There are codes for that. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for your wisdom. And I think a key theme we're hearing is education, educating both the clients and also the field as to what we do and what we can do in both ways, prevention and kind of as intervention. You mentioned the Venice Family Clinic and some of the things that you were saying. There was something I just wanted to highlight as a story, as you're saying. Plug myself into your podcast right now, which, by the way, please share on the Facebook page so everybody can join in. When we were at the Venice Family Clinic, which Larry Payne and I had co-founded in 2014, they had told us that we could only come in and do asana and call it postures, pranayama, call it breath work, and meditation, we could call it meditation. So that's kind of how we got in the door, but we stretched and we expanded what we did a lot, to the point where Dr. Spar, who ran the clinic, said, "What your medicine is making our medicine work better. What is it that you're doing?" And then he realized, he said, I think it's because you're the only discipline that sees the client not as their disease, but sees them as the human that they are beyond their disease, and that helps them to remember past that. So there's so many layers of how we work, not just in where we work, but how we view the other person, that can have that, as you were saying, the prana exchange can support that healing. So Amy, thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward to your contributions in the discussion also, and all the great work that you're doing. So now I know we're running such a tight schedule here. We're going to invite Hope, who currently, let me bring you up to the stage, Hope. Hope Farmby actually is currently involved in IAYT. Hope began her yoga practice in 2010 and has been teaching since 2020. She studied at Loyola Marymount University and serves the DEIA Committee co-chair of the International Association of Yoga Therapists. Hope's focus is on offering inclusive classes and teaching yoga principles. Hope's goal is to introduce people of color, those with injuries, and elderly people to the self-care practice of yoga in a welcoming and safe space. So welcome, Hope, and I will turn the stage over to you, and we'd love to hear your perspectives.
Thank you so much, Lori, for having me today. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Representing IAYT, I just have to say that for me, being a part of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Committee was a goal of mine after I started my yoga therapy training and graduated from LMU, because for me, it is about introducing yoga to disenfranchised individuals, specifically the African American community, because it is a disconnect between yoga and the African American community, specifically in terms of what a lot of times what we believe it to be versus what it actually is. So being able to kind of bridge that gap is something that is passionate for me. I also believe that yoga therapy can benefit a multitude of people, but especially in the healthcare setting. I believe it adds an extra benefit for people of color. Because historically, Western medicine has oftentimes used African American people as guinea pigs. Unknowingly, the Tuskegee Institute project, what happened with Henrietta Lacks. So what ends up happening is that oftentimes African Americans don't feel as comfortable going to Western medicine, and they also don't feel as comfortable dealing with physicians and hospitals and things of that nature. I feel that yoga therapy in the healthcare setting can be a viable alternative for those who are uncomfortable with Western medicine. As far as IAYT's position, the goal is to simply provide, like it was talked about earlier, a level of standard, but not standardization, just basically providing ethics and codes and guidelines for principles for people to follow as they practice yoga therapy. But then also the additional goal is to make sure that yoga therapy is happening everywhere. So for IAYT, moving into a healthcare arena, yes, is a goal, and being able to expand that is absolutely the desire. But we also believe that yoga therapists should be practicing everywhere in studios, clinics, community centers, private practice, anywhere where they can provide help. But even more so, making sure that we're able to have yoga therapists in the healthcare setting helps to provide a level of equity for people who may not necessarily have insurance, but can then go through the educational route that was talked about earlier in terms of being able to educate them on the principles of yoga and the different things that could help make their overall health and well-being better. It also provides an opportunity, since my background is in the labor movement, I look at individuals who work in the healthcare industry who may also have an interest in yoga or yoga therapy, and being able to kind of combine their passions, so to speak, to assist others in the health, to assist patients and coworkers, I think would be beneficial just as well. Even in my own personal experience, I have, last year, my son was diagnosed with leukemia, and we spent a great deal of time at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. And they did have different therapists that were available in terms of child life specialists and touch therapy and art therapy and music therapy, but their yoga therapy was a gap there. I was able to provide it for my son directly, but I could see the need of that existing on a larger scale, especially for children who are dealing with childhood cancer. So overall, the future of yoga therapy, I hope, is brighter than we think. In my mind, I envision more people of color being certified, more queer people being certified, more neurodivergent people being certified, and also yoga therapists who specialize in those areas. I personally work with autistic children for yoga therapy. So just being able to provide more access to yoga therapy overall is the goal. I don't know. Do I have more time, Lori? Or
Thank you, Hope. I think just so everybody knows, I think we will be going over a little bit. I don't want people to feel rushed, so I just want to put that out there. Hope, I think you've done a great job at highlighting the concepts of accessibility, different populations, and also a really key point about different cultures and how yoga therapy may be received, and also how it may be beneficial because of how healthcare can be, people may have resistance to healthcare. We also have seen some cases of people who will then get more comfortable through yoga in utilizing mainstream healthcare so that they are healthier once they find their ability to self-regulate and be able to navigate that healthcare system. So
yeah, and that's a really great point, Lori. I've actually had clients that through our yoga therapy, I've been able to convince them to finally go see a physician or to finally have the surgery or et cetera. And a lot of times it is about that awareness, about coming to terms with where you are in your health and being able to take ownership of it and being able to accept and adapt to where you are in your life right now. Thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
thank you for being here, Hope, and sharing your perspective. We really appreciate it. I hope you'll engage in the conversation online afterwards and on Facebook. So thank you. So now we're going to bring Veronica Zador. Let me bring you. And again, I really don't want anybody to feel super rushed. So just so you know, we'll run just a few minutes overtime, and you're not going to want to miss the next. We have 3 more speakers. I promise you, you don't want to miss any of them. So without further ado, let me introduce Veronica. Veronica has a decades-long internationally recognized career in advancing yoga therapy within clinical healthcare environments. Veronica served as 2-term president of IAYT, that's where we met, as well as 2-term vice president of Yoga Alliance. She's published over 40 articles on yoga therapy and has been involved in standard setting and educational leadership in the field for over 30 years. She's the founder and program director of the International Institute of Yoga Therapy, IYT, providing an accredited 3-year curriculum focused on clinical applications of yoga therapy and research. They have multiple hospital affiliations. The curriculum delivery includes rotations for inpatient, outpatient, and peri-procedural yoga therapy. They've celebrated their 10th year, and in January, they'll be hosting the International Institute for Yoga Therapy's 2025 Symposium on Advancements in Yoga, Clinical Applications and Research in Yoga Therapy, where many of us will also be gathering to continue these conversations about the future of yoga therapy, especially in the West. So Veronica, I'm gonna turn it right over to you, get myself off, and hand you the stage.
Thank you, Lori. Am I able to bring up my slides?
Yes, you can hit the share screen. You see the green button there?
All right. Thank you, Lori.
All set, thank you.
And whoa, let's see if I can go back. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It is an honor to be in this sage, well-experienced leadership circle of strong voices in our field. Thank you to Kaivalyadhama for building a 100-year-old superhighway and making it so easy to follow in your footsteps, knowing the incredible amount of work and dedication that went into not only building that path, but maintaining its structure, its credibility, and its responsibility to moving all of us forward, following your torch. Thank you. Thank you to Lori Rubenstein very, very much for organizing this forum, for bringing so many of our voices together in order to listen. And thank you for reminding us that the work we do is about listening, responding, being credible, and having a sustainable work that we can follow and study. Can we start the time now? Okay, the clock starts now.
Timer's on.
Thank you. These are the questions that we were given by Lori. We will not go through all of them for the sake of time. I'll hit on some of the maybe the most germane conversations for our session today. And I do have another deck that we will have all the hidden slides revealed so that anyone who wants to stay online and discuss, we will have that information ready to go, rocked and loaded. You'll notice the second question is a little bit edited with Lori's permission. How do you envision cross out future? And I inserted presence. And it is also a play of words, not only present tense, but our presence as yoga therapists, doing what Chikista is, which is therapy. So how do you differentiate yoga therapy from yoga? I'm going to focus on yoga therapy rather than yoga, again, just for the sake of time. The reason we use presence rather than future is that these are very new developments in our field. When I say new, this happened on December 4th, 5 days ago, that the International Institute of Yoga Therapy received confirmation of the following definition of yoga therapy as provided by the International Institute of Yoga Therapy, that's us, and is in accordance with accreditation requirements and policies of the Accreditation Council of Continuing Medical Education. Not our self-proclaimed organizations, but this is the Accreditation Council for Continuing Medical Education through joint providership of the Institute for Medical Studies and us, IIYT, International Institute of Yoga Therapy. The Institute of Medical Studies is accredited by the ACCME to provide continuing medical education for physicians. I stopped counting the word that came up, education, after 25. That word education came up so far 25 times, and then I just stopped counting. On December 2nd, 1 week ago today, the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, again, these are not yoga institutions. These are not yoga institutions. This is the NIH, all right, National Institute of Health of the United States, had a half-a-day symposium, half day, exploring the impact of whole person health. The event was partially supported by the NIH with a generous gift. When it came time for Dr. Rappaport, who's Chief Medical Officer of the Department of Vermont Health Access, I'm guessing Amy knows him, and there's the website below. This is a screenshot. This is a screenshot from a week ago today of the research that he is conducting under the auspices of NIH. Look at the red arrow, yoga therapy. This is the results from Dr. Rappaport's preliminary studies. This is also funded by Blue Cross Blue Shield for those of us who are interested in knowing about what is keenly, who is keenly watching us in terms of insurance coverage. This is co-funded by Blue Cross Blue Shield. Look at the green arrows with the exception of 2. Using yoga therapy as part of a multimodal approach to whole person health, everything went down. Recent, again, December 6th and 7th, we're talking 2 days ago. 2 days ago, the Midwest Pain Society, again, not a yoga therapy organization. This is straight up scientific meeting sponsored by Northwestern Medicine Prentice Women's Hospital in Chicago. Look at the red arrows here. This is their promotional material. The objective, so in order for them to receive continuing medical education, we just talked about that, they have to list their objectives on their promotional material. Look at number 4. Review cutting-edge technologies, virtual reality and pain management, discuss the integration of holistic care modalities such as yoga therapy and aromatase inhibitors into multidisciplinary treatment, multidisciplinary plans. This was 2 days ago. Of the presenting speakers, I was, by the way, transparency, I was absolutely honored to be the voice of yoga therapy as a presenter at this conference in Chicago. 8 out of 16 MDs and PhDs, I excluded myself from that count, referred specifically to yoga therapy as part of their ongoing patient-centered care for pain management, not integrative medicine, pain management. Thank you, Lori, for your endorsement. This is what IIYT is inviting everyone here to. It's our first symposium. It is advancing yoga therapy as first-line treatment healthcare. Thank you also, Larry Payne. There's Dean Ornish. He is one of our presenters here. Notice here, these are MDs and PhDs who are using yoga therapy in their practice. Dr. Robert Zielinski, I think Lori and Larry and Chris Chappell will also recognize him. He just went through your program at LMU. It is something that we are incredibly honored to be presenting. And this is a distinct and unique way for people who are involved professionally in healthcare to engage in conversation and plan not only the future, their present involvement, engagement, and commitment to yoga therapy in their patient-centered care. And why is this? Why is this? Lee, thank you. In our program, no one moves forward unless they have distinctly and substantiated familiarity, connection with, and deep understanding of 2.5 years of the sutras. It is our foundational plan. It is our text that we defend our treatment plan with. And no one can move onward into yoga therapy, into patient-centered care, without this basic, deep familiarity, visceral understanding of the platforms of yoga and the philosophy and the content of what allows us then to move forward into an assessment, intake, treatment plan, and outcome.
I'm going to ask Veronica, I'm going to butt in and ask if you can. I know I really want you to share the work that you're doing at the hospital, because we're a little over time. So
Okay.
maybe another minute or so to wrap that.
Right here. And this is how. Thank you. Thank you, Lori. This is how. These are clinical extras. They're in their, this is year 3 of their studies. This is on site. This is patient one-on-one encounters. Lori, give me a moment. The picture on the left, this is all all our clinical externs are mentored and supervised by our faculty. They're putting on leads. The mentor faculty member is Jenny in the blue. She's putting leads on Lisa Provenzano in the red. By the way, yes, everyone here has signed permission for their photographs to be included on this presentation. Lisa Provenzano is a clinical extern. They're putting on leads because they're going into the procedure room with a patient. They're providing yoga therapy along with the medical team specifically for the patient during the operative procedure. On the right-hand side, this is patient documentation. All patient documentation is supported by the Panchakosha model. These are clinical externs virtually. This is a faculty member delivering a lecture to a medical school at Henry Ford Health. This is Michigan Medicine at University of Michigan, how yoga therapy can help with chronic pain and fatigue. This is just last year. These are our clinical externs. Inpatient. These are referrals. These are the departments in the hospital. We have 5 affiliated hospitals for our clinical extern yoga therapy rotations. These are our referral centers. And finally, I'd like to conclude with our postgraduate specialization in yoga therapy fellowship. These are 2 fellows. They're doing a study along with the OBGYNs for MFM, that's maternal fetal medicine inpatient OB pain study. The other fellowship studies that we have ongoing are in oncology radiation pain, sickle cell acute pain, and chronic pain. That's in Detroit main campus. Pain, periprocedural pain management, and the MFM study that you see here.
Thank you, Veronica. I think we could hear you share about this all day, because there's so much immense work that you've done. And what you've highlighted is how yoga therapy can be within the modern medical model outside of India. Dr. Ananda will share shortly about very similar type of work that they're doing across the hospital within India and now outside. So I encourage everybody to look into the conference that's coming up, where you can hear a lot more about that. So thank you, Veronica, for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thumbs up, Lee.
I'm going to ask Joseph LePage to come to the stage. If you can turn your video on, I will spotlight Joseph. Let's see, where'd he go? Oh.
I'm on.
Oh, there you are. Okay, let me bring Joseph, and thank you for your patience here. I want to introduce Joseph, who I have heard about since the beginning of my yoga, I guess, time in entering into yoga. Joseph has founded the Integrative Yoga Therapy in 1993 and has been a pioneer in the field for decades. He's the founder and director of the Enchanted Mountain Yoga Center in Brazil, which is one of the largest yoga centers in South America. It offers a complete curriculum in all aspects of yoga with a special focus on Ayurveda and yoga. Since 1995, he's been teaching yoga therapy in hospital settings as well, and is the director of the public health program, the Healthy Heart Program in Brazil. So thank you, Joseph. We would love to hear more about your work and your perspective.
Thank you. First, I want to say that I support everything that everyone has said. And the only thing that I could add is that what you said about the Venice Family Clinic. And so you come in and they want to keep everything as simple as possible. No, we just want some chair yoga. And we don't want to call it pranayama, we want to call it breathing. And so I've been teaching in this Healthy Heart program for almost 20 years, and I've taken exactly the opposite approach. So following what Swami Kaivalyadhama said, that I created all this from nothing. And if it goes back to nothing, I don't care, but I don't want to dilute it. So what would that look like, teaching people who are, practicing chair yoga? How could we teach yoga and not dilute it? And so what I've done in this program is that it's a 12-week program, and each of these weeks is based on an aspect of yoga philosophy or psychology. So that we have a week on the chakras, we have a week on Pratipaksha Bhavana, we have a week on meditation. And of course, we're not using the Sanskrit, but we're bringing in the yoga philosophy and the yoga psychology as the basis of a yoga therapy program. So people are doing chair yoga, they're doing mudras, they're doing affirmations, but every week they also have an educational portion. And they're actually learning the yoga psychology, the yoga philosophy. And so at the end of the program, they've developed all of these skills, all of these techniques, but they've also integrated the philosophy and the yoga psychology. And in that way, we're really bringing the essence of yoga directly into a yoga therapy program. This is public health. And so there can be a tendency to say, well, this is public health, and so we should just do the very basic. These people aren't going to be able to learn yoga philosophy and psychology. And my experience has been exactly the opposite. That's the most important part that they get out of the whole course. And just a funny anecdote, these stretches in the chair can all be so similar. In one of the places where we have our program, they had a stretching program, and the stretches that they're doing are really similar to what the yoga program's offering. And the patient's saying, oh, that stretching program is so boring. I really like the yoga. And so, and what they're looking for is a meaning. What they're looking for is understanding and knowledge. And so these things are universal. And so what I've found is that that's really the heart of the program. And the postures and everything else support that. And what they have in the end is really the essence of yoga. And so that's the one thing that I would add is that the essence of yoga, the philosophy and the psychology really can be implemented into yoga therapy programs in a very practical way. So everything else, I think, has already been said, and I would support it all.
Joseph, I have a question because I want to echo and bold, underline what you were just saying, because it was very frustrating for us in the Venice Family Clinic. We were doing it covertly. They said, this is what you can do. And then we did what we do anyway. And then when they saw the results we were getting, they were like, how are you getting those results? And then we started to share what we were really doing behind the scenes. How did you get where you were providing this? How did you get them on board with showing up with the essence from the start? Did you face any challenges with that, or how did that come about? Because that's something I think we face a lot here.
Yeah, in our case, these communities that are bringing this on board as public health, they just don't know enough about it to question it. It is, they just don't know. And so, for example, the first class we teach is a 5 kosha model. So we're teaching, we start to talk about health, and of course, we're not using words like koshas, but we're taking everything from that 5 kosha model and using it as the basis for the whole program. So we have evaluations based on the 5 koshas. Their final evaluation is based on the 5 koshas. And that 5 kosha model carries all the way through. And we start with the Annamaya and go all the way to the Anandamaya. And then each week, so on the Annamaya, then we have posture, we have body awareness. In the Pranamaya, we have breathing and we have chakras. In the Manomaya, we have Yoga Nidra, Pratipaksha Bhavana. And so we just move through the koshas from beginning to end and teach the entire yoga philosophy and psychology. And but bringing it at a level where people can really take it in. And then every week is supported by mudras and affirmations. So just to say that it can be done, and that's really the heart of the program, and nothing needs to be left out. So the entire yoga philosophy and psychology can be brought into health and can be brought into public health and can be practical. And not only practical, but cost effective. And also in terms of group size and all of these other factors that are so important in public health.
So, and do you have anything written up on this that maybe you could share? I think that a lot of people have, at least I've heard, they're facing resistance from people who think they know what yoga is and not understanding, which gives a barrier to being able to show up in the authentic way that you have. And even what we did at Venice Family Clinic, ultimately, they were all using the Panchamaya model, all the practitioners at the end. It took a while to get there, though. So if you have anything, because I think your model is really exemplary of what can be out the gate. We don't have to contort ourselves. And so anything that, if anything you want to leave with to guidance to people who want to do that, is what I'm hearing is do it, and do it in a digestible way.
Yeah, I have a short film in English and also a handout, so I can send that to you, Lori, and you're welcome to share that with anyone who'd like it.
Great. Thank you, Joseph. I think it's really inspirational and a great support to everybody in this field. So thank you for all that you're doing. And thank you for being here.
Namaste.
Okay, so now I know somebody that Joseph knows very well, Dr. Ananda, if you could, where is Dr. Ananda?
I'm here.
Okay, so it is honestly beyond a pleasure and a joy to introduce Dr. Ananda, who we've known for quite a long time now, many years, is my teacher, my friend, colleague, and a huge compass for me. I'm really grateful to have you here. I could go on and on and on, but I'll cut from my personal to his bio, which I did have to shrink down, otherwise we will be here for the rest of the day. There's so many accomplishments. Yogacharya Dr. Ananda Balayogi Bhavanani is director of the Institute of Salutogenesis and Complementary Medicine and professor of yoga therapy at the Sri Balaji Vidyapith University in Pondicherry, India. He has served as a member of numerous expert committees in the Ministry of Ayush, including its steering committee of the Yoga Certification Board and the National Board for Promotion of Yoga and Naturopathy, just to name a few. He is consultant resource person for the World Health Organization's Collaborative Center in Traditional Medicine and is the Joint Secretary of the Indian Yoga Association and Vice President of the National Yogasana Sport Association. a recipient of the coveted Doctor of Science in Yoga from Vyasa Yoga University. He is chairman of the International Center for Yoga Education and Research at Ananda Ashram, Pondicherry, India. He is son and successor of the internationally acclaimed yoga team of Yoga Maharishi Dr. Swami Gitananda Giri Guru Maharaj and Yogacharini Kalamamini Amaji Meenakshi Devi Bhavanani, his parents, his illustrious parents. A fellow of the Indian Academy of Yoga, he has authored 19 DVDs and 35 books and 36 compilations of yoga, as well as published more than 400 papers, compilations, and abstracts on yoga and yoga research. Sharing is caring is his mantra, one of his mantras, in national and international journals. In addition, he wears many hats. He's a classical Indian vocalist, percussionist, music composer, and choreographer of Indian classical dance. He is a recognized PhD guide for yoga therapy and is the first Indian to be recognized as an IEYT certified yoga therapist. He was awarded Pudavai Kalamamani by Government of Pondicherry and has been a keynote speaker at yoga conferences across the board. He is an honorary advisor to IEYT, the Australasian Association of Yoga Therapists, and Gitananda Yoga Associations worldwide. I could go on and on, but I'm going to turn it right over to you, Dr. Ananda, because we all are anxious to hear what you have to say.
Well, a good evening to all of you on that side of the planet, and a good morning to all of us on this side of the planet, and good noon or midnight to others on their side of the planet. We are all on different sides of the planet, and hence we have different perspectives. Our perspective comes from where we are, our drishti kona, the angle from where we perceive things. And God doesn't have that problem, because from where God is, everything is the same. And that is why there's no your God, my God, your yoga, my yoga, your tradition, my tradition. It is all one. In that oneness, we manifest yoga. In that oneness, we manifest health. In that oneness, we manifest a sense of ease. I have on this screen some of the most amazing people who have been part of my life. Larry Payne, I owe you so much, big brother. You always look out for me, and I will never, ever be able to pay back what you have given me. I have Anantaji, Joseph LePage, who made sure that I became part of yoga therapy training programs in the West, which I had held back from. Amy, I remember you taking me out to a nice lunch when I came to Sitar many years ago. Veronica, nice to see you. Praseeda, and my Canadian mom, Lee, who, made me learn how to manage a cancer retreat with her and write papers and then a book about it. Chris, nice to see you. Dr. Chappell, and remember your visit here. And Laurie, thank you for being you and putting this all together. A few thoughts I wanted to share. And I've been listening to all of you. I got stuck in a roadblock where people are protesting not getting cyclone and flood relief. So didn't get to office as I wanted to, but I still was here for Praseeda's initial presentation. When we talk about yoga and yoga therapy, the World Health Organization has given us an excellent framework, because earlier they used to talk of alternative medicine. Now, when I say alternative, it means either you or me. There's a lot of antagonism, lot of friction. Alternative medicine then got changed into complementary medicine, where we can complement each other. We can work together and enhance the effectiveness of each other's healing and healthcare systems. But then the latest from WHO is TCI, Traditional Complementary Integrative Medicine. And that is exactly what I believe in. And that is where I feel yoga therapy can have a pride of place. At the Institute of Salutagenesis and Complementary Medicine, I'd wanted it to be integrative medicine. Management said, no, not yet. So they kept us as complement here. We are part of a healthcare university where we are educating the future yoga therapists. We are educating future medical doctors, dentists, nurses, physical therapists, and every student in our university gets an understanding of yoga as the tradition understands it, along with the language. Amy and I wrote an article on the language of yoga therapy a few years ago, along with Matthew and Marilsa. We have to speak the language of modern science to communicate with them, but let us not dilute yoga for that. You know, I think one of the major issues I see happening today is we have a glorious past in yoga chikitsa. Again, we are calling it yoga therapy. Let's call it yoga chikitsa. And in brackets, yoga as a therapy. Application of yoga as a therapy. Let's call it yoga chikitsa. Let us say this is what we are. Similarly, we need to start using the proper terms. Yoga is a science. Yoga therapy is a science. And every science has its own lingo. So better learn it. We need to know these terms. You can use translations along with it, but do not let the translation become the accepted norm. Because if it becomes the accepted norm, why call it yoga? Why yoga is a Sanskrit term. Let's just call it union. So everybody goes out to the gym and practices union. Why do you want to call it yoga? So for me, I believe that we need to retain the terminology of yoga that is Sanskrit. And we need to acknowledge it, just like modern medicine acknowledges Latin and Greek. When modern medicine can acknowledge and use Latin and Greek, why cannot we use it in yoga, chikitsa, and yoga therapy? Now, the whole person approach to the individual is what yoga chikitsa offers us. Because modern medicine has adopted a reductionist approach that only looks at a small cell in you and now a small genome and your genetic linkage. They have forgotten they are looking at a human being. So people have become cases, people have become, that diabetic case who has retinopathy. Now that's an individual. It's dehumanizing, depersonalizing. And that is why when we bring yoga therapy into modern medical setting like we have done successfully for the past 1.5 decades here. My dear Dilip Dada, Dilip Sarkar says this is 21st century medicine, what we are doing here. We are trying to help the person as a human being. So I believe that as yoga therapy goes into any field, and yoga therapy can be an add-on in every system of medicine, be it allopathy, chiropractic, osteopathy, naturopathy, any pati, all the patis you can add, including Ganapati and Dhanapati. Yes, yoga chikitsa can be used because it is a non-pharmacological, self-directed, empowering, and that is a very important word we have lost recently in IAYT, empowering system where the person can learn to take care of their own self. My father used to say, health and happiness are your birthright. Regain them through yoga. We need to give the person the tools and they should stop being dependent on us. Very few systems have this approach that yoga therapy has. And this is why when we add the yoga therapy to modern medical management as we do, how do I sell it to the modern medical doctors and all? I say, well, especially in non-communicable diseases, chronic diseases, which are the bane of modern world today, the biggest issue is patient compliance in their therapy. So many patients stop taking the medicine and the doctors don't know what to do about it. Why does a patient or a client stop taking their medication in a chronic disease? Two reasons. One, the side effects of the medication. The second, the cost of the medication. Now, the moment you add yoga to the mix, so I am not suggesting yoga alone to manage conditions like diabetes or cancer or anything. What I'm saying is, you add the yoga to the integrative package. What happens is, again and again, every study in the past 30 years of my research, every study has shown that you can start to reduce the drug dosage. And when the drug dosage comes down, what happens? Side effects come down and the cost comes down. And the patient will become more compliant to the therapy. And this is why I tell my pharmacological friends and the pharmaceutical reps who come to me, don't think of yoga as an enemy to the modern medical system. We are all on the same team. So if you sponsor yoga therapy research, you will also get some good karma. They have not yet listened to me, so I haven't got the sponsorship yet. Again, a selling point of yoga therapy in healthcare. We have a whole load of about 40%. My professor and mentor, Seduraman sir, who has 50 years of experience in general medicine, said 40% of symptoms are medically unexplained. Medically unexplained symptoms are 40% of people coming to hospitals. Now, what happens? You get into the hospital and you are shunted from specialist to specialist, specialist to specialist to specialist to specialist, until nobody can find anything after test after test after test, and finally sends you to the trash bin of the hospital, which is called psychiatry. Because they say it must be in your head. We cannot find anything. We don't know what's wrong with you. It's all in your head. Go to psychiatry. And in our hospital, when psychiatry doesn't know what to do, their trash bin is yoga therapy, and they send the patients to us. So rather than go through 30 specialists and 45 tests before coming to yoga therapy, what we suggest, and we do that, we go and sit right where the patient comes into the hospital to register. And we let them know that there is an option of yoga therapy, music therapy, if they would like to try it. And you can reduce the burden on healthcare. William Osler, the father of modern medicine, at least they call him that, he said, the good physician treats the disease. The great physician treats the person who has the disease. I think yoga therapy can bring back that approach to modern healthcare, which is why we need to work together. We need to build bridges, and human bridges are required to make that travel comfortable, seamless, and safe. Thank you so much for having me here and giving me a chance to share some of these thoughts that are very dear to me. Love you all so much.
Thank you, Dr. Anandaji, so much. As always, brilliant, bringing everything together as I knew you would so beautifully. Thank you, and for being you. And thank you to everybody. I thought that we were going to have all these varied perspectives, and yet I'm hearing common themes through all of them. And I hope that these bridges are built. We will have the Facebook forum. I put the link in the post, and you'll also receive it in a follow-up email, that we're encouraging everybody who's been in attendance, all the participants who've been watching, to please come share your perspectives, any questions that you have, your thoughts, so that we can build more bridges and work together, so that the field doesn't diverge and be conquered and divided, but that we move forward together. And thank you to all of you who are leaders in this field for all that you do. Deeply, deeply grateful. And Dr. Chappell, did you have anything you want to close out for us?
Yeah, if we could all just sort of sit up straight, it's been a long evening, and lift our shoulders and put our shoulder blades back so that our sternum comes forward just a little bit. And close our eyes, feel grounded, connected with the floor. And go to that place of invocation, Bahur, earth and water, Bhuva, fire and air, in service of and channeling downward, Swaha. As Sri Aurobindo said, our task as humans is to invite the descent of consciousness. Hari Om.
Thank you so much for making this happen.
Thank you, and congratulations to Kaivalyadhama and gratitude for all that you do.
Thank you
Be
so
well in
much.
yoga, everybody. Thank you, Praseeda.
Thanks a lot to everybody for putting this together and for being here and for making this happen. Deep gratitude from Kaivalyadhama for such a wonderful panel and for organizing this program. I thank Laurie and I thank Dr. Chappell for this initiative. Thank you so much for this collaboration.
Thank you. Be well, everybody. Bye.